Let's see what Kwame talking
short,
about.
mother effers.
Let's see what Kwame talking about.
What up,
man.
boy? Good to see you, boy. Yes, sir.
Let's let Kwame.
Good, bro?
Let's let Kwame voice his piece.
He's wide open.
Speak his piece, bro.
That joker is tall.
Oh, be long, man.
God.
Pause, nigga.
Oh man. What up, dog?
Ain't nothing I can't call it.
You can't call it, man. What a hookah?
At the crib. I wish I would have bought it.
That drip crazy though.
I had something better.
Hold on, his drip crazy. I just peeped.
You good. You can't.
He got it.
No.
He got a long sleeve camo shirt on under a regular t-shirt.
Oh, you good.
I used to wear that when I was in like 3rd grade.
Mine up underneath the foil on the hoop.
Oh, yeah.
I tricked their ass at the spot.
No, you don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a wild one.
You take the little foil off,
Yeah.
put your little shit in there, and just steam up just like the hooper.
Man, that's too much. That's too much.
You had that too.
You ain't driving.
No, you got to wet that. How do you do that without wetting it?
So just put it in there. It's the oil. The oil burn off just like the same as in the hooper.
I got to see that.
I'm not trying to make this a roast session, but he looked like something. I just can't put my finger on it.
I got you, baby.
Okay.
Always
I
got
really want to hear what you're talking about though.
I got to see that.
Hold up. Limitless. Niggas to me got penny.
But man, welcome to the
Militant. Way I'm finna get me up. On the mission, get me up.
But man, welcome to the Pivot. We're excited to have you. Channing, Freddie T, I'm RC. To our partners, Happy Dad, we appreciate y'all. Sponsors, DraftKings, thank you guys for sponsoring the show. And to everybody who subscribed and liked over the past year,
Shout out Happy
we
Dad,
truly
yes.
appreciate you. Without you guys continuing to support us, we don't have a show. Without you guys continuing to show that this show is impactful, we don't get to have guests like Kwame. Kwame Brown, obviously, to us, doesn't need an introduction. First overall pick of the draft from here, not necessarily Atlanta, but Brunswick, Georgia is where he graduated.
You see, y'all young cats right now may not know who Kwame Brown is, but I know for sure if you at least knew of Kobe, you knew of the Lakers, you might have heard you probably heard of Kwame Brown.
Graduated from high school, McDonald's All-American, 13 years in the NBA, played for multiple teams. I think I want to start before that though. So many times people just focus on who you were as a basketball player. What we like to do is get to the heart of the person.
And before you go say Kwame's a buzz, he suck, he got nothing to say. Open your ears. You're always gonna learn something from somebody. I don't care who you're talking to. There's somebody, everybody on this earth got something that you can learn from. So before you write somebody off and say, and all because of their talent and what they've done in the past, they always learn something that you don't know.
Because I think understanding that gives us an opportunity to say, okay, why are these actions taking place in the present? You are one of 8 children. Joyce and William
That's
are
a
your
hell of a
parents.
lot.
And you guys were in a household where there was a relationship that was contentious. Your mother moves you guys to Georgia, what they call it, the bottom.
Michigan first.
Michigan first?
Yeah.
Okay. And you know, you end up in what they call, I guess, the bottom. What were those transitions like for you as a young kid?
It was very difficult being so dark-skinned. That's the first time I heard how dark I was. I grew up in Charleston, South Carolina. Well, I was born in Charleston. We grew up in Moncks Corner in Eugene. So everybody
really be
around
no
me was
joke.
dark. And we came from an area where it was a lot of dirt roads. So a lot of times you didn't wear shoes, and that was like normal. You get down to Brunswick, and it's different. Blacks didn't really get along with each other like we did in Carolina. And so my neighbors were my cousins. So everybody around me back then it was more like a family unit. Get to Brunswick, we have cousins, but we're all scattered out. We're not really connected. It was a difficult transition. Speaking different, I have more of a Gullah Geechee dialect before I came to Georgia. I remember the teachers and the students picking on us. And I remember my brothers getting in a lot of fights. I mean, that was mostly
Teachers is insane.
the problem at school was they were fighting because of the way
Teachers?
they spoke.
With the upbringing of it, and I've heard you talk in the past about a lot of legal problems with your family, with your siblings and all that stuff. What were some of those? Because I heard you say that there was multiple arrests, multiple prison stints. What was it for? And how did it affect you as the little brother looking up and seeing these dudes really, mess up their lives?
Well, I was just waiting on my turn. I got to see older people make mistakes that I thought I can just be better at each individual mistake. And that's what I noticed by being drafted. People didn't want to hear the truth. because my life and my household is a small microcosm of what the black community is. It's boys trying to step into the role of a man. And so they saw my mother no longer had money. My father took care of her, so she no longer had money. So they're gonna step up and do what most boys are gonna do. They're gonna join gangs, they're gonna sell drugs, they're gonna do a lot of illegal things. And prior to my father going to prison, none of this was going on. And from a child in that perspective, I wish adults would listen to the children, because they don't. They're too caught up in emotions of women.
To that point, because we've had other guests on that were in the house with domestic violence, and I've asked them, how did you know that was wrong? Because some people fall right into the trap of what they see, what they know, what they've heard, what they've learned in their life. And you said immediately you thought that going to jail was wrong. Domestic violence, you could see that and say, yes, you're not supposed to hit a woman. How do you make the decision as a kid that this isn't life? They're doing it wrong.
Because I saw what it did in the...
I don't care what somebody's gender is, who they are, what they've done. I don't think domestic violence is an answer that's going to solve anything.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't
parents
think
were
it
good
ain't
at
ever gonna
hiding
solve
things,
anything.
Back in my day. Now they do everything in front of the
Because at the
kids.
end of
They
the day,
bring
we
kids
all
out, they
humans.
TikTok.
You want to hit somebody and make them feel like they're less, but it's just dehumanizing somebody. We all humans, man.
They twerk with them.
It's not even just about domestic violence in general. It's even about how you perceive a person.
I had the old school upbringing where I knew that was gonna get you.
They still twerking. They just twerking separate.
Yeah, they were still twerking. Back in my day, they was twerking, but you had to go outside.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so now they just mesh everything together, and it's weird because kids are seeing things that they shouldn't see, and they're growing up angry. I talked to a kid that was 13 years old in Connecticut. He said, "I don't care about nothing," and I saw so much of me in this kid because when you don't get the ball and it's not your turn, and you can't choose your parents, you can't choose your situation. This kid is 13 years old and saw a 14-year-old kid get killed. So it's like these kids are surviving their home, and that's what I feel like I did. I survived my upbringing, and a lot of black kids are surviving instead of. I feel like if I had a stable household, I would have been the president and the #1 draft pick. But prior to that, I'm an All-American, I'm on honor roll, I'm holding down a job, and I'm paying bills all while being a teenager. And that's what most kids do.
Wow,
That's
that's
a
something.
lot
You
to
said
take
Monk's
on.
Corner, right?
Yes, sir.
Shout out,
That's a hell of a lot
shout
to
out
take on.
Charlemagne.
Yeah.
We had him on your show. He's from
Off the strength of that, forget the basketball career. He get respect from somebody like me. I don't know about y'all, but he get respect for doing something like that just alone.
Monk's Corner. But I really wanted to say, man, just really watching some of your YouTube, preparing for this, watching your YouTube, hearing you in person speak now.
He got a YouTube
the
channel?
articulation and just the common sense. That's where it starts. But I like to start with, respect, regardless of what you hear about someone, what precedes them, what's in the media, all that stuff. I don't really care about it. I like to be the character, how I deal with someone, in the head-to-head. So I just wanted to say that, we all respect you here, right, first and foremost. But now going back, you spoke about you had family members in and out of prison. I saw somewhere you said that you had your brothers in and out of prison. Most mornings you would wake up before sunrise, you'd be handcuffed, lay flat on your chest.
Yeah.
And then you would still have to get up and go to school and try and figure it out.
7 times in a row.
7 times, wow.
Yeah.
Speak to that, because that has to be like just the frustration and everything it brings. You could have easily tried to emulate your older brothers, and we wouldn't even be sitting here right now.
Well, I did. That's what's unfortunate about the situation. Every kid in that situation, before I discovered I had a talent and I could get out in basketball, but my first love was football. But before I started growing, I grew from 6 foot to 6'8" in one summer.
8th to 9th grade.
Yeah.
Right?
So I was like, man. But prior to that, just like most kids, you're attracted to that. All the cars, the girls, and the things that come with it. It was exciting, but once you start seeing one brother get 14 years, 13, these numbers, and you're like, wow, you see what it does to mama. You see the position that you leave her in is worse than the position that she started out. Because sometimes you can mess up their government assistance. There's all sorts of things that come with being a street cat, and none of it is good. So to me, that's why I always tell cats, if you're that, you're against the black community. everything about it. You're hurting black, you're selling the black, you're robbing black. Everything is black on black.
Let me tell you this right quick. The way the black community is set up in this country, in this society, is mostly negative. And regardless, and outside of that, in general, for somebody's gonna be the person to make change. Why not be that? Why not you be that person to make change? Why not you?
With you feeling that way,
If you know what you're doing is not what you want to be doing, but you're just doing it to follow the crowd, why not be that person to change it up? Because you know what you're doing is wrong. So be that person to change it up. Don't be scared. Don't be scared to start it. All because you're going to stand out. Realize what you're doing right now. It may not have the immediate effects. People may look at you different. But then when they realize where you're going with it, that's where you're going to gain respect. Because they're going to look back and be like, oh, he was thinking bigger picture. He wasn't thinking about just right now. He wasn't trying to be like everybody else. He was really working on something. Or she was really working on something that was impactful, really influential.
and truly having a sense of what the community needs, having seen young men have to be adults or have to be men of the house
And that's a
before
big
their
time
time,
decision.
before they understand even how to do that, which is a problem in our community, which I do think is a symptom of what history has been for our culture. And now you get to the point where it is time to pick up a basketball. It is time for you to find a way out for not only yourself, but for your mother and for your family. And the Dan Moores come around and the John Williams come around. When you started to be around men, to have sort of a father figure, what did that mean to you?
It meant accountability. You know, you can't hold me accountable if you up all night, you know, selling drugs. So it was an older brother trying to be a parent, but he was flawed himself. So uncle stepped into the role, but Mr. John filled that gap. He was a minister. He had 4 children, a wife, and he ran the FCA camp. And I noticed all the guys that was like me that ran away from him, the accountability of doing your work, you know, not being up all night with the girls. The guys that ran away, I look at their life, even earlier on, they started getting in trouble. Most of these guys have been to prison. Most of these guys have been through all sorts of things because they didn't want to be accountable.
In that accountability, you start to play basketball. You were committed to Florida. You would have ended up like these two, which is not a bad thing at all.
Right.
Very successful, man. Florida worked out for them. But you had to make a call to Billy Donovan and say, well, you know what? I'm going to go to the league. And part of reading what Billy said was that you kind of hinted to that you weren't ready. And Dan Moore had a quote that said, use basketball, don't let basketball use you. Was part of that decision getting to the point where you said, okay, I'm gonna use basketball now to change my situation? Because I can't imagine being that age, having that sort of money being thrown at you, having that sort of opportunity being thrown at you, and knowing where you've come from, knowing what you've been through, being able to pass it up even if you aren't ready.
The weight on that decision is something like people like us or like 99% of the population could only just think about. But when you're really that person and you that age and you got to mature that quick, make big time decisions like that, that's tough.
It didn't
Now
happen.
we done all made huge decisions, and I feel like they all equivalent on a certain scale. Because what one person goes through, I feel like one person's hardships is just as hard as another person's hardships, depending on how they perceive things in the world. So just literally just depending on the person, I feel like everybody goes through something big, but like to think about something like that magnitude for him, or speak of at least for me, that's just crazy.
Do it ready for me. It was simple. Basketball will take care of itself as long as you're true to the game in any sport. I think adults hold kids back. Some of the smartest kids I ever met, I saw teachers holding these kids back. A kid would go to sleep in class, sleep the entire time, wake up, get an A, and the teacher would write this kid up every single day just because he wouldn't do it the way the teacher wanted. So it's a lot of kids, when they're the exception to the rule, adults don't like it. And so with my situation, it was simple. I played against Tyson Chandler. I played against Eddie Curry. From a basketball standpoint, there's no higher than number 1. So what's the point? I can always go back and get an education. So I looked at it like, let me just go and get the money, and let me take care of my family. Let me take care of my whole city, and you know, we can go from there. But what I found out is that most adults don't want to fix the problem. Like, if when I get in rooms with the city council, the mayor, and people like that, and I hear the things that they're saying, and I listen to the programs, and I tell them, none of those programs are going to work. And they're like, why do you say that? This and that. We put this much money. I said, that's because you want to look good. I was a kid in each and every last one of those programs. Every time you sent me home after that program, you didn't send the program home with me. So what's the point?
Like you're saying, the decision to
No NIL back then either. So think about it like this. He'll leave college, maybe get a couple $1,000s back in refund money, scholarship money, but it's still not the money he was making to be able to take care of his family. So now that's really it makes that decision to just jump straight to the league bigger than basketball.
And it's easy. I left Florida early because same thing. I was chasing money. I talk about it all the time. I knew every check I was gonna get before every game I played in.
But I wasn't chasing money. I was chasing something different. I was chasing legacy. From what my family lineage and where I come from, I wasn't supposed to be what I am. I wasn't supposed to make it to college, let alone the #1 draft pick. So I was just trying to make history. This is more of a legacy thing and a namesake. My father was a murderer. So every time you hear about Kwame Brown, you hear about a murderer's father. So I didn't want to do that for my children. So I said, let me go be better than what everybody thought I could be. And I did that.
But but looking back now as a grown man, going to Florida or any college, wouldn't that have matured you to a level to be ready for what happened when you got to the league?
No, I could have been like Teddy Dupay, gambling on basketball and got sent overseas. My first trip to the University of Florida, the professor handed Teddy Dupay the test in the class, in the bar on my recruiting trip. So I know how college works. I was gonna go for 1 year. It's not like this one and done rule is a real thing. It's just to make more money for these colleges.
I read that. You said you only...
That's just really a system. That's really a system. Because what's the point? There's so many players in high school who are capable of going straight to the league, so talented, but I gotta go to college. Send them straight to college, but in college, the player, even in time, now college players can make money. But back then, like in years past, ain't nobody was making a dime. Maybe in some refunds, but like they was not making nearly as much money as they brought into the college. And that was messed up. They should have been made that NIL deal like 20 years ago. They would have had way more players go to college and stay in college.
Right. I use basketball better than anybody.
Right. But, we are football guys. You say football is your #1 love.
Yeah.
Because you could take out your frustrations and not,
Not
get in trouble. Right, go to jail or get in trouble or anything like that. We've seen some amazingly great basketball guys transition to football guys. Antonio Gates, Tony Gonzalez, Julius Pepper. So some guys. Do you think you would have been able to make that transition?
No, because I hated offense. I just wanted to play defense.
You just want to hit.
I just wanted to hit people. I played safety and I played defense.
He's a menace.
When I got taller. But they moved me to tight end, and the dude, I'm 5'5", he almost broke me in half.
Talk about, wait. Whoa.
Dude said I just wanted to hit people.
I'm 5'11". I know it looks far.
I'm talking about I'm talking about like middle school, high school age.
Hey, he looked at me.
One of them little dudes like that.
Yeah. Man, he almost broke me in half though, so I said no.
That physicality that you developed then, because you were a point guard in 7th grade, and then I think
undefeated in middle school.
Undefeated, the leader. Then 8th, 9th grade is when you had the growth spurt.
I was looking at myself like, what is this?
Right. But you needed that physicality from football to now follow you until you're having to go inside and play close to the rim. Did that make you a better player?
Peep this though. He was a point guard when he was in 7th, 8th grade. If he continued to gain those guard skills and build that coordination, he would have been another one of those unicorn draft picks of the NBA, one of those once in a generation type players. That's why you got a guy like Victor Wembanyama, who even through growth spurts throughout his life, I don't care when he grew, he just continued to do what guards do. What did KD do when he grew? Continue to do what guards do. All these big guys, probably even Paulo probably too, continue to do what guards do at that size. You just got to build it, and it's almost like you're resetting because now you have a whole different body, new coordination, new weight. You don't know how to use it, so now they're just gonna be like, go in the paint, bump, use your size and all this stuff. But nowadays, where we're gonna see a lot of players, especially 5-10 years, we're gonna see a lot of kids be that like 6'10", 6'11", 7 foot guards and wings.
Absolutely. I think a lot of basketball players should play both both sports until a certain age. If you in high school, of course, Adam Wainwright, the pitcher at my high school, then he got drafted he ended up finishing with Cleveland, right-hand pitcher, about 6'7". He played football. He was better at football than I think basketball. He was a quarterback. That arm he had was amazing, though. So he would play football in high school. He played receiver. He'd have a wide open touchdown. He'd just drop, because that's the rule him and his daddy made. But I don't think you should take away from, because they could have won the championship, but you shouldn't take away from the people who are grinding, trying to get to a professional level like you guys. But I think they should play until they get to high school, because it was just so much easier. You know, the hits and the things like that in basketball, it's easier to take when you don't play football.
Speaking of the hits, the physicality and those things, there was a workout where it was just you and Tyson Chandler, two of the top big men.
Yeah, the second time around.
In the entire country. And it said that workout was more so to prove that you were everything the Washington Wizards at the time thought you were.
I don't know what excuse they made this.
That was the excuse I read necessarily. And, after that workout, it said that you dominated, though, which I guess for you, that type of competitiveness, that type of physicality that it takes to win in such a one-on-one battle, that may make the decision who's the first pick or who's picked first between you two. I would think that mentality has to be one of a champion. But it said you talked to Michael Jordan after that and said, if you pick me, you won't regret it.
It was Doug Collins.
It was Doug Collins?
Yeah.
Okay. What made you so certain that you were able to say that?
Because in every facet of life, I moved into things too early. I wasn't ready to be the man of my household at 14 when my brothers went to prison, but I split half the bills. I made sure everything was cool. So in every situation, no matter if you thought I was ready or not, I've always rose to the occasion. And it wasn't even close in those workouts. I mean, Tom Thomas was there. It wasn't close. That's why I always preach to young boys from the hood. The same thing that you were saying about money. Even my 10th year in the league, I was playing for Charlotte Hornets.
Because I know a little bit.
I was getting a double-double in 2 quarters.
To the story.
Instead of, I think Tyrus Thomas got $40 million. They came back with another excuse. Oh, he only played good because it was a contract year and he wanted the money. And I'm just like, it's always an excuse. I learned that people will give you the excuse, but they don't want you to make it.
I love that.
Yeah, you're dominating high school. Dominate, you the man.
I'm dominating the pros too. I actually talking about practices.
But
I'm just telling you, it's crazy how politics come into play.
Now you dominating practice. We weren't privy to those films or those practices.
I wish.
Then what happened game time though?
Game time, you have a coach in Doug Collins who doesn't believe in playing young players. Michael doesn't either. And Michael's last hoorah, Michael wanted to win a championship. In his mind, he felt that if he can get to the playoffs at 39 years old, he can win a championship. So I was supposed to be traded. The reason why I was brought in the second time, from what I heard,
that's confidence.
Is because
at 39, dude was probably averaging 28 games or so, but still, Jordan had that it factor. He was still black cat. People were still scared of me. He was like, let me get there, and I'll be able to still be able to pull things off.
What team wanted
crazy.
Or Tyson the most? Did the Clippers want, Tyson. Did the Clippers want Tyson Chandler, or did they want Kwame Brown? Because Elton Brand was supposed to come to the Washington Wizards. And that would have been more of a, adult grown man team. He wanted a team full of North Carolina players, and he believed in Elton Brand. Elton Brand was averaging a double-double. It made more sense.
Going into the pros, very young, 18. And we talked to T-Mac. We had Tracy McGrady on here, talked about the transition, the intimidation, being in the locker room, grown men, all that stuff. Did guys present themselves as standoffers where it didn't allow you for a full, development to become the player that the organization drafted you to be?
Well, teams weren't ready to have an underage guy in the locker room. Everything changed when I got there. There's no more drinking in the locker room, no more smoking. There's places that I can't go as a 19-year-old, and it was just different. It was totally different. And now I think I paved the way for how they handle young players now, but it was just totally different.
And with that, you speaking different.
I would have had no problem
with that. Is there
with
anything?
Somebody like me, I just be putting the work in. I put the work in. I don't be going out like that. I don't need to go drink. I don't need to go to no clubs. Damn, I ain't
You would have done different
Though I know a lot of people different. It's like they like to have a go out fun time oftentimes.
You know, from the day you step foot
Ain't no knock.
inside the NBA until when you left, is there anything that, because I don't want to give you an excuse. I want to ask you if there's anything that you could have done differently that would have made you a better pro, developing a routine, you know, nutrition, like whatever it may have been. The floor is yours.
I think every basketball player, every person who plays sports, once you go through the type of adversity that I've gone through, where you have the media attacking you at the same time, you have a team not playing you. I had the whole world talking about me at one point. That's tough to deal with at any age. So me, I just got quiet, and I think it made me too much of an introvert. So I'm mostly a fun-loving, bubbling, gentle giant. So I think at first it made me this, if you watch me, even when I make a good play, I wouldn't even celebrate. And we had kind of a no-nonsense coach in middle school that made us kind of that way, but I think it kind of made me go into a shell. And I did go through a period where I didn't stay true to the game, where I didn't work out as much as I should. But at the end of the day, every time they called me, I was always ready. I think it happened maybe once or twice, maybe once earlier on in my career where I'm just like, forget it. They don't want to play me, you know, this and this and that. And it took Chris Whitney, he's a veteran point guard. He's like, no, you know, you always work out. You always stay in shape. That's the only thing you can control. Anything else you can't control. You can't control the minutes. You can't control if you're going to get in. None of that. You can control what you put into the game. Speaking to your earlier point.
Right quick, though. That's why you've got to be prepared for when the opportunity comes around. If you don't prepare yourself, you will not be ready for that opportunity. You will never be ready for that opportunity if you don't prepare yourself. So always make sure you put that work in. Regardless if you feeling right now things not looking your way, it don't even got to be basketball. It don't even got to be sports. It could be just life in general. You feel like you just have not got that opportunity. But I know for a fact, if you keep putting the work in, once that opportunity does arrive, once that day does come, you'll be ready for it. And if you're not ready for it, you're going to end up regretting what you did before.
Been shot at before I got to the NBA, so it wasn't no pressure.
So discipline or regret, you choose.
When you grow up in that environment, I've seen real life pressure. The only thing is, I was frustrated with the thing that nobody wanted to hear me speak. They kind of treated me like a child. Every time I would say something, they'd try to tell me, no, that's not what you really mean. And that's what I really meant. And so it's kind of hard trying to talk to adults that don't want to hear you. It just made me frustrated. So that's one thing I could have changed.
Another thing I wanted to say, though. When he was talking about having fun, playing the game, playing sports, always have fun. Having fun. Make that your number one priority every time you step on the court. Don't make it some external motivation about your brothers, mom, your parents. Now, those could be some little fuel to make you want to get to where you want to get to. But if you don't have fun doing what you're doing, you're going to take that sport that you love playing right now, basketball, football, whatever it is that you love doing, you're going to turn that career into a job. It's going to start feeling like you're clocking in every single day. It's going to feel like it's a 9 to 5. Like it's some shit you're just doing just to get by. So make sure that every time you do that thing that you're passionate for, have fun doing it before anything else. So whatever it is that you need to do to have fun, make that your number one priority.
I'm gonna say this, and I don't know if Channing and Fred feel this way. You didn't speak for a very long time.
Nobody want to hear the truth.
So people didn't hear from Kwame Brown. And then when it was an opportunity for you to speak, you were almost forced into it by whether it was the emotion of the things you've heard, finally being tired of people continuing to say whether it was that you were a bust or speak negatively about your name when things weren't true. And then when you finally spoke, it was so much and it was so fast that people immediately thought that's who he is, right? Whether it was the expletives, whether it was the name calling, basically just defending yourself, right? You get backed into a corner, now you come out swinging. And I can be honest, and everyone you speak to, when you say you're gonna have Kwame Brown on, it's all like, oh, for real? What are you gonna get? And I don't know how much longer we're going to go, but I wanna say this. What you've talked about are traumatic experiences that aren't unique to you, but that are unique experiences for a human. You have processed those in an extremely mature and adult way.
The fact
and the way
he's
that
already
you've
gotten through all that
communicated,
stuff.
at least with us, right now.
He's got a number of people's
through-
respect, including
out the
mine.
beginning of this show, this episode, this podcast,
Forget his
whatever you want
basketball
to call
career.
it. It's actually phenomenal, bro.
Yeah.
And I want to commend you on that because I think people will constantly go at humans who have experienced a level of trauma that they never will without being able to understand how that changes a person.
Yeah.
And so,
Well,
man, I
to
appreciate
me, it's confusing why people don't understand what I was doing. I even said it on live several times. There's a song, Sexy Little B, Sexy Little H, let her play in your throat, throat babies. I'm trying to bust all on you. We monetize black males that talk like I talk on the internet. Our culture, I was trying to show them our culture. 30, 40,000, 60,000 people watching me curse people out just because they're used to seeing that. It was like a #1 draft pick doing it, so it's new, it's fresh, so let me see what he's doing. So I gave them what they actually wanted. And that's what we're monetizing in our society. We want to hear black males talk ignorant, talk about killing. The women are talking about, we had Beyonce. Now, I love Beyonce. We had Beyonce say, church girls go twerk. That's crazy. I don't see no other culture, no other race talking about sex, drugs, and murder the way our culture does. So I just brought it to the internet.
But why would you, because you seem
And it's really sad. You got to understand this. The world is always going to promote somebody doing bad, somebody doing something negative, because that's what those reporters, those journalists, those people nowadays on internet, on Twitter are going to be able to make stories off of and be able to make money off of and get people to look at them and see what they doing and help boost what they doing. So there's got to be a point to an extent where everybody, not just one person, but everybody's got to begin to realize that the more that we do the bad, the more that they're going to make these stories and the worse it's going to seem. But there's got to be somebody within each of those spaces that in time, it's not going to happen soon for sure. It's not going to happen, probably not even in my lifetime where it's going to stop. But if you slowly start somewhere and you begin to change the bad that's happening and going on within everybody, it's going to end up changing at some point in time.
very in tune into what
Unless the damn world
we
get
go
blown
through
up.
in our communities, the perceptions
Or one of these
of our
natural disasters
community.
occur and it's just GG's.
And you chose to
It's
make
just
that
GG's.
decision knowing how people will perceive you and then cast that perception on the lot of black people. And for you to be able to say that it's monetized, that they want to see it, it's what's expected of us, and then still do it, though, that doesn't make sense to me if you know how that perception is going to affect the community. So why would you still give people what they're expecting or what they're wanting when you can sit here like this and legitimately change lives? I'm listening to you right now, and I'd put you in front of any group of kids, anybody that's ever been through anything, and say, listen to this man, his knowledge can help you. You had an opportunity to do that because the world was listening to you because they wanted the bullshit, and you gave it to them. Why would you do that?
Because the interviews like this. They still listening. It's like I tell people in real life, I'm not a one-trick pony. I'm a real person. Everybody has more than one facet. Everybody code switches. Most people talk like I talk in the barbershop when they go home. I brought the barbershop to the internet. I brought the coffee shop talk to the internet. That's how people really feel. That's how people really talk. My cousin, my uncle, they talk like that. My grandmother would cuss you out and then make you a sandwich. I mean, that's just was our culture. So we shouldn't be so offended. But I just see that how can you be so upset by a former athlete talking like this when you have rappers that you're paying millions of dollars and they're influencing the kids more than me? They're gonna talk to the kids more than me in a sit-down meeting talking like this. Kids don't listen to people who talk like this. I did that so they can listen, and now I can just sneak in a little bit of juice.
I would say it comes off as angry.
I get what he's saying. I get what he's saying for sure. But still, at the same time, I feel like had he been able to talk the real at some point, if they don't hear it at the moment he says it, they're going to realize at some point in time. It's going to come up in the back of the mind. That's how people work. You may not understand something right now, but somebody told you something that just flew past it, flew in your ear, went out the other. But as you mature and learn, it's going to come right back and you're going to realize, oh, that person was right. And now you change that mind, that perspective of the person that you talk to. But now that you gave them that side of you that people want to see, that people want to bash, that people that makes the community, the black community, bad as a whole, now that you gave them that, they're going to run off with it, make stories about it, and show and continue to try to make justification and arguments that he's still a bad person. So I would have approached it a little different. I would have just still stuck true to what I realized, and not give them what they want. Try to bring the change and reach the end goal that he's reaching for, that he wants to get to. Do that right now instead of waiting for it, giving them what they want, then going back to it.
And
It
I don't know
should.
if you mean to, so
I do.
you mean to. Why
Yes.
would you, like you're saying, you're trying to prove the point, I would say. You're trying to make a difference.
There's different approaches, of
The
course.
old
but
saying, get the bees with honey type
To me, it
thing.
just
You
seems
come up
smarter
and so
to-
angry.
Why
I don't
wouldn't
know
I
if I
do
can
it?
look up to that person that seems like he's angry with a number of people and a number of facets of this society.
So why wouldn't I be angry though? When women sit down and they talk about traumas that's happened to them, don't we all pay attention and listen and understand? Why is it when a black male says that I grew up in a household with no father, I grew up with no leadership, I've been shot at, the police profiled me, I get no respect from males or females, why wouldn't I be angry? And that's the problem. We keep trying to tell black men that you can just man up, you have no reason to be angry. We do. I want it to sound that way so people can pay attention, because men are at a point where it's getting to a melting pot. We get no respect. Did you see Tank Davis hiding from a woman? And they called him a woman beater. What did we see with Brother Dana White? The media ain't talking about it in the same way. So what I've been talking about on my platform is the complete disrespect, not only athletes, but black men as a whole. Why is there no black boy magic? Why was Stephen A. going to colleges talking about NBA player, whether he was good or bad? He was at high schools, he was at colleges. What was so special about me that I needed a NBA analyst to go to high schools and colleges?
When you look at what you did accomplish, and you look at the way that was perceived, whether it be by Stephen A., obviously what happened with Gilbert Arenas and all the smoke, and you hear those things, I think a lot of times we have to understand that people's opinions are formed by their perceptions and their experiences and the things that they hold
Kwame
true
be
as
on,
value.
or
And
Gilbert
so in
be on
looking at you,
Kwame
that
head top. He be on Kwame head, if I remember correctly, unless I'm tripping.
value is, okay, he's the #1 overall pick, and this 13-year career, this career that doesn't end up as a Hall of Famer or doesn't end up as this or as that, these are things I can critique him on, and I can approach the topic or approach the situation and say what I want because that's what I feel the film says.
Is it really a critique when a man states an opinion and you've created a word called bust to where everything that I say now has been invalidated by this word bust? I'm a #1 draft pick. You're looking at history in a room. Stephen A. Smith, a guy who can't do what I do, came up with a word that a guy working at Walmart can use against me and think it has some power. But you want me to believe that this is just talking about a game?
How much power does that word have?
It
when
has
comes to-
power as far as dealerships, deals and sponsorships. Who wants to work with a bus? That's the point that I was trying to make the entire time. If you listen to the beginning of how it started, when Jack is tapping, or Matt Barnes is tapping Jack to wake him up to be a part of the joke, they tried to invalidate a whole man. It wouldn't have been funny if they would have just said, hey, Kwame Brown was the worst draft pick ever, in my opinion. Cool, that's your opinion. But it wasn't nobody in that trade. It was only 2 people in the trade. So I wasn't even there. So you're gonna rewrite history like I wasn't there. And that's the problem. They don't do that to black women. They don't do that to white women. They don't do that to white men. Scalabrini is known as the white mamba. Why?
Because it's funny.
No, it's not.
He's definitely not a guy that you can even put, because once you say white mama, that means you're putting him on the same tier as Kobe
Adam
Bryant.
Morrison, Trajan Langdon went to Duke, didn't fizz out. White Chocolate, all these players that come in, Brian Cardinal.
I know what he's saying though.
Zaza, not Zaza.
What he's saying is that the white players that have become a bust aren't looked at in a dark light like Kwame is looked at, like an Anthony Bennett is looked at. They look at the black players. I'm not trying to make this a race thing, but I'm just looking at it for what it is. But they look at them as if they're just bad people. Like what they did was just absolutely wrong. Whereas you've got guys in the league, Bryant Scalabrini, who's terrible, in a sense, but people look at it as a good thing. Adam Morrison, he was bad, but people still look at it as a good. And then a number of players you could go down the list and talk about.
What was his name? He went to the Boston Celtics. So we have all these players that if it's just about good and bad and pecking order, who's better and who's not, that should fade away at some point. I'm 40 years old, but the tag bust is still there.
I think when you look at a guy like an Adam Morrison, he for sure absolutely didn't live up to any of the hype he had coming out of Gonzaga. I think he was drafted 3rd overall by Charlotte. And so I do agree with you that at some point it should go away. I think you became the butt of a joke that people just...
Most of these people nowadays don't even know of Adam Morrison, but they probably don't heard of Kwame Brown, because Kwame Brown's name's still getting brought up to this day.
Just won't let go.
But this is the thing. In our community, can we afford to joke like that? You're talking about a man who...
The short answer is you can't. You can't. There's already so many things up against the black community that it's just like, how much are you gonna play with it, play around with it? Like, you can't. There's little room for error if you want to bring some sort of change.
Took his family out of poverty. You're talking about a man that if you compare me to the average black man, it's not even close. You compare a kid that's 14 years old that was responsible enough to get a job, that's a 3.0 GPA, that was signed, sealed, and delivered to go to the University of Florida by the 10th grade. You want to talk about preparation? You want to talk about not being ready? I've been ready all my life. Why wasn't I ready at this stage? I've been ready all my life, or I got ready. So it's no excuses. Like, I've never accepted and I never will, because I know who I am. And see, that's what society wants you to do. They want to beat you down and turn a screw in your back, and they want you to act like it's not there, and I won't do it for them.
Hearing those negative connotations, the attempts at invalidating who you really are, the fabric of you, and also hearing you, speak about being younger, adults not wanting to hear you. Being an 18-year-old in the locker room, the adult professional male not wanting to hear you. And even now, the Channing talked about anger. You're doing it because you want to be heard. All of that stems from your upbringing. Why is it so important to, validate yourself to people who just, a second ago I said I like to lead with respect, right? But these people are coming across as totally disrespectful. Why try to validate yourself to these people and come across angry, in the process?
All right, before you get to that.
You're not, I don't think you're really
right
that
before
way.
you get to that, right?
No.
If you fail to understand that in this life you will never win over everybody's respect, you're going to constantly be chasing something that's just unattainable. You will not be able to be respected by everybody. It's like trying to chase perfection. We will not ever be able to be perfect. But if you try to get as close as you can to it and try to win over the people that you can win over, then that's a different story. When it comes to respect in terms of perfection, when I talk perfection, I'm talking like skill. So like, say somebody wants to be a perfect shooter, never miss a jump shot in their life. If you work towards it, that's something you could do on your own, and that's a battle you fight within yourself. But when it comes to respect, the minds of other people, some people's minds you just cannot change. You will just not be able to change certain people's minds. So at the end of the day, if you're trying to win over everybody's respect, trying to always be the good guys, have everybody love you, it's just not gonna work like that. The biggest people we see today, you can name them any industry, any category, anything they do. The biggest person, they always got their critics, they always got their haters. There's always gonna be that person to bash them. So at the end of the day, you will not get anybody's respect, regardless of how far and how successful you become.
No. What I'm doing is for the kid. See, this is the thing. When I go speak to young kids, I play my lives for them. I let them hear it. I know why you're angry. I don't never try to talk them out of what they are. They're angry for good reason. Am I angry at 40? Absolutely not. I fight for the young kids now, because for the longest, males have been invalidated. Nobody won't answer my question. Why was Stephen A. an NBA analyst at colleges and high schools? What was the big deal? What were they learning? What did he get paid to do? See, when you sit down with people and you ask them real questions, they don't want to answer them. When I'm telling you, there's a
You think Stephen A. gonna answer this? Because it seems like this video going crazy. Everybody need to clip that, send it to Stephen A. Make him answer that live on First Take or something.
Easy way to help fix our community. I'm talking about from the inside out. I go sit there with the city council.
Then we gonna get sent
I
back
said,
right with the
it's
PR
not about
answer.
programs. It's about the foundation first. You got to help fix the homes. You got to incentivize their fathers to come back. Because I was a child in that situation, I understand this. These programs are not going to work. You know what happens? They just go get some money for some other program that's going to help somebody else that's screwing up their life. It's not going to work that way. So with me, I got quiet because no one wants to listen. But now, the children that I work with, I get them in boxing, I get them in karate, I get them in whatever so they can get that frustration out. Then we start working on their mentality. No, don't let anyone tell you who they are. Take whatever power, whatever word that they use. This word bust made First Take and Stephen A. rich.
Let me say this. I don't know why Stephen A. were at college. I don't know anything about it, right? If you fast forward,
that's a question
because
for
that was
Stephen A.
around 2000, right?
2001.
Saying, you gotta make sure Stephen A. see that.
If you fast forward to 2022 or just from a few years ago, you know, including social media, all this stuff, rivals, all these different recruiting programs, it seems to me that he was almost a visionary. You know, like the media going to high schools, going to colleges, getting in front of everybody, because that's all we see now. They follow these high schoolers. We don't know if they're going to pan out, but they do crown them the next great LeBron or Kobe or Mike
talented,
before they have a chance to do anything. But what I think, though, and I know RC has the power to set this up, maybe you and Stephen A. should talk. Ask him.
I've asked Stephen A. Many times to have a conversation, but he's not going to be able to answer
they
those
do
questions because what I think it was to
I'll be so quick to watch it, like, these.
make this one and done rule set in place. I think I was the poster child for this one and done rule. If you look up every article that's written about Kwame Brown, it's negative. Sally Jenkins wrote an article as if I'm the dumbest guy in the world. When you can look up public records that I have a 3.0 GPA, you can hear the way I speak now, but because I know what I want to do and the way I want to do it, then somehow I'm a problem. Sally Jenkins met me for maybe 2 hours and wrote an article as if we knew each other for 20 years. Rachel Roy, same thing. I know what they actually are doing, and it's to diminish the male image. And I just can't see anybody coming with some real proof to say otherwise. Regardless of whether you think I played good and bad in basketball or not, Stephen A. has said things like, Andrew Wiggins, I wouldn't trade him for a box of cereal. He don't say that type of stuff about other players. And that type of
look at what Andrew Wiggins now.
Stuff like that is
got his first All-Star last season.
When this man goes and try to go back into his community and say, I was a football player, let me reach these young kids and help them. These kids can see these memes. These kids can see these tweets. They're not going to want to work with him. But if you get a quarterback like Ryan Leaf or one of these quarterbacks that barely made it in the league and was pushed by or whatever else, he can go back and pour into kids. Jamarcus Russell can't. You're ruining these men names with these labels. And that's my point.
We've actually had both Jamarcus and Ryan on the show. I think both of the shows were of a different tone because Ryan has been through some things that after football were actually worse than his football career. And I think Jamarcus, much like you, because Ryan heard the same type of things. He let the word bust influence him. He let that word affect him emotionally. And he mentioned that on our show. Jamarcus wanted to set the record straight about why he felt like he wasn't a bust. Much like you said, to get to that point, to be the first overall draft pick and those different things. And so I do believe that there is a ton of power in that word. There is a ton of power in the way that you're perceived based on how these people with platforms.
I didn't even know Stephen A. made that word.
Coming out, it's you, it's Eddie Curry, it's Tyson Chandler. Eddie Curry.
Bust, that bitch stuck.
He was a bigger body, a banger. Tyson Chandler, longer, athletic, could jump. You were kind of the best of both of them. And that's why you go #1 overall. In your estimation, in your mind, when you think about why wasn't Kwame Brown a Hall of Famer? Why wasn't Kwame Brown an All-Star? Can you first start off and say to yourself, you believe you had the goods and the talent to become that?
Absolutely.
So why, to you, didn't it happen?
It's more than him just as a player. I'm going to let him say what he say, but when it comes to the development of a young player, I talked about this when I watched the Gilbert Arenas podcast, is that it's more than just the player and what they're doing. Now there's certain guys who are gonna find a way to get it regardless of the situation, but at the end of the day, the people in the front office, the head coaches, your teammates, they all are factors in how much you develop as a player. So let's see what he said.
Team that had Michael Jordan on it. I can't say why. I can't foresee the future, but I know
Expectations
something
through the roof.
changed when A. Poland said no. And I don't think MJ is the type of man you can say no to. And I just think that's what it is. And then there's a series of events that happened. They wanted me, I know my mom was a little frustrated because when you're black and you're from the black community and you don't have a father there, you have to harp on that. And my mom didn't like the way, I think she was sitting on the front porch and they were asking her questions. I can't remember who did the interview. And they just wanted to talk about how poor she was and how much money we didn't have and this whole weak story. And it wasn't that weak. We didn't have money for a very short period of time, and then my brothers went crazy. And then, that's what happens in the hood. So to me, it's a story of strength. A 14-year-old kid how many 14-year-olds would have went and got a job to pay half of their mother's bills without missing a beat, without crying? 5 o'clock in the morning, I'm on a porch.
He still had a 3.0.
The guy's picking me up.
Let's talk about this right quick. A lot of people say school's so hard, but he done worked a whole job, probably damn near full time. Had a 3.0, number one player in high school, but some of y'all barely struggling just to go play basketball and get your grades straight. When are you gonna get your grades straight? Because once you realize that school is it's not as hard as you think it is, it's just that you just got to get that work turned in and stop procrastinating and just do your work. You're gonna realize school is a lot easier than you think it is.
At 5:30, I'm screeting concrete. I'm digging footings.
Just at least turn your work in. At least turn your work in. Give yourself a chance to get a grade.
At 14 years old. So you can't tell me I'm not ready when I'm doing grown man shit before I became a grown man. You can't tell me a game is that important. A game was easy. I was doing that game without practice. I was digging footings and then going to whip behind. You know what I mean? So you good. I'm digging footings and out there with grown men that's cussing and smoking cigarettes. I'm already grown in my mind. What was different between
Cigarettes
going to play
disgusting.
a game of basketball than somebody giving me a shovel to dig a foot?
And Kwame, to speak on that, like you said, you got shot at, you had a job at 14, like you out there cussing, dude smoking.
No, I wasn't cussing.
I mean, you out there listening to dude cussing.
My mom wasn't playing that.
And you are in a grown man role as a 14-year-old.
Yeah.
And then there's a narrative out there that when you got to the Wizards, Charles Oakley and Michael Jordan, and correct me if I'm wrong, kind of bullied you.
No, I think that's rookie hazing. Everybody got it. Everybody got the same treatment other than Brendan Haywood because he went to North Carolina.
And so that had nothing to do with, because they put it as like that made you struggle on the court because Jordan would talk nasty to you or Oak would,
Did MJ or Oak say that?
That's what the story said. I'm trying to clear it up.
I went back and played for MJ and Oak in Charlotte. And Oak was my coach, and I played very well. So I don't know what the story is about.
Okay, so that didn't affect you at all, because they just said that Jordan would call you in the front of the team and call you all kind of derogatory terms. And all
Jordan
that.
Do that to you too.
It's gonna happen.
That's what I'm saying. What's so
It's gonna happen. Now it seems like the stories are just trying to say he folded. Like when it came to that situation, like he just crumbled. But like I don't know how true could it be? The media people aren't there, so like of course Jordan's gonna do Jordan. People know Jordan. Jordan gonna talk his mess, but I guess they just saying that it just crumbled him and Jordan literally just was the death of him.
But that wouldn't affect the 18-year-old Kwame?
As long as my check was there on the 1st and the 15th, I don't care what he say. And that's the thing. I was that mature. If you listen to a Jahadi White, if you listen to Tyrone Nesby, if you listen to Chris Whitney, they gave a real assessment of what actually happened.
And if you understand how people operate and what they're gonna do, regardless of who you are and whatnot, you're gonna be able to get through some of that stuff. But if you fail to realize that, then you're gonna crumble, like all these reports were saying.
Yes, a lot of those things happen, but the way I handle it, I can look you right in the face and not be listening to you. Because I know if you're doing things that I can't control, what else am I supposed to do? What am I gonna do to MJ? Yes, some of those
Chop
things
his head
happen.
off,
It happened to me. It happened to A majority of the players
Tape his
in there, I
mouth
didn't
shut,
take it
Big. You
personal.
ain't happy.
Once you know that's how someone is, that's who they are.
It's who
Could the
he is. What I was just saying.
Wizards or the NBA have dealt with 19-year-old Kwame a different way to change what happened?
I don't
Sure, they
think
got
the
some big
NBA
ass.
had anything to do with it. I wouldn't blame the NBA on it. I wouldn't even blame more so MJ. He had a great enough career that he deserved to get what he want. I mean, I think the trade should have happened. That's why you don't hear me out bashing MJ. Why bring a 39-year-old guy there and draft a young guy if that's not what he wanted? I think Abe Pollin and him should have had a better conversation than the one that they had, because
Now there's definitely some animosity when Jordan seen him walk into that locker room, knowing that's not the player that he wanted. So I feel like Jordan possibly would have put a little more onto what he was saying, put a little flair onto all the things he was saying. So
I got trapped in the middle between Rasheed Wallace leaving, Ben Wallace leaving, Richard Hamilton leaving. All of these guys left Washington. There's one destination. And then I'm forgetting Juwan Howard. So Abe Pollin wasn't finna let that happen again. So I just think they should have had a better conversation.
But you also said that the NBA was not ready. They had to change things when you got to a locker room. They no more liquor, no more drinking. Like they had to change things because they have a underage person in the locker room now.
Yeah.
Did they do enough for you? Because you trying to deal with that. You knowing all these grown ass men in this room, they'd have been, like you say, Jordan's damn near 40. He'd have been in this thing for 20 years, and now this little young mother. You know what I'm saying? Like this little young mother coming here and changing what I'm used to for for 2 decades. Like
Yeah, that was funny there, boy.
what was it like?
That was a funny conversation.
But they had, I don't know if you felt it, but they had to put some kind of pressure on you, or kind of make you feel like an outsider, alienated somewhat. Something had to be there.
I just laughed it off, man. It was just funny to see grown men just arguing about whether they could have a beer. I wouldn't have cared. I was telling the trainers, like, yeah, my mom smoked cigarettes. So cigarettes not going to bother me.
shouldn't be no
beer,
problem.
I've seen beer. What is that going to do? So it's like, if they would have let them do what they do, I just think it was much to do about nothing. Look at what they promote to teenagers now. So.
Listen, man, the first round that's come and gone.
Listen, man, I gotta get straight back to the business.
$. Yeah, traditional.
That's your thing.
Damn, they got me.
And
Get back in it.
you mentioned few Hall of Famers, Rasheed Wallace, Ben Wallace, Rip Hamilton, former teammates. You didn't have an opportunity to play with them.
I chased them to Detroit still.
Right, but you did have an opportunity to play with a guy that you guys go back and forth like a lot now on social media, Gilbert Arenas.
I don't want to talk about that guy. He mentioned putting the pistol to my throat, and I think if I was white and the media was really the media and the police really did their job, see, they expect us to talk like that. If I was
Gil
to
be
threaten
talking
a white
crazy.
guy like that and say, you're going to put a pistol to your throat, what would you think would happen? So I'm not going to play games or even talking about a clown like that. So, I mean, I think he's what's wrong, and I think he's definitely what's wrong with our community because he's a coward. But to actually say that on camera, knowing that there would be no ramifications for it, you think Gilbert Arenas would say that to J.J. Redick? Absolutely not. So that's why my podcast is so important. They can say what they want. You don't have to like profanity or whatever else, but you have to start paying close attention to what's allowed and what's not allowed.
Yeah, and I wasn't gonna get into that part of it.
Hey, I ain't gonna agree with that Gil's a coward statement unless I actually meet somebody and really learn who they are.
He quoted
But
that saying
they ain't good looks
because
though.
he played
For sure it's not
or
good looks.
he outperformed you on the court when you were supposed to be the star, having been the #1 pick.
Yeah, Gil was him though.
That's how you develop.
If we talking pure basketball, forget like if we just talking pure basketball, Gil got it for sure.
jealousy and animosity.
Whatever he says. Whatever that guy says.
Another like, so I am, and everybody knows this who's ever watched the show. I'm the biggest Kobe fan that's ever been. And you got an opportunity to play with them. You were there the night of '81, and you talked about doing dirty work and setting picks and being a part of those things. The transition for you in going from being the #1 overall pick, all the expectations that come from that, and the expectations we put on
maturity
ourselves
right there.
when we are as talented as you were to be that pick. And now to be in the presence of someone who is a Hall of Famer like that, and the ability to accept that role and be a part of that, was it your upbringing, the adversity you have gone through to say, you know what, if this is my job, I'm gonna go out and do my job the best I can to allow us to win games and for somebody to go off and hit 80.
Who gonna do that?
Man, Kobe.
Ain't gonna be many people to do that. Some people just want to. Their egos get to their head. They get their head boosted. They think that they're always gonna be that guy forever and ever. But sometimes change has to come. A change gonna come. No saying cook. So, like, at times you gonna have to adjust if you want to be able to keep that career, keep your job.
I've never met a guy like Kobe. Kobe's just, his mind was so different, and he came out of high school. And so I'm telling you, they're afraid. There's a lot of Kobes out there. Trust me, there's a lot of Kobes. Was I the best guy in these different camps? I probably wasn't. There's a lot of guys there's guys out there better than them. But Kobe, man, when I got there was a lot of things. Mentally, I was frustrated. I actually didn't want to go to California because to me, he was just like MJ. He was a guy who shot volume shots. I was trying to get to Jason Kidd or a pass first point guard. I just saw Kenyon Martin running and catching lobs without thinking that he could use his athleticism, and I'm like, wow, I could do that sleeping. So I was really pushing my agent to get to Jason Kidd, but I ended up with Kobe, and at first mentally I was like, I don't want to be here, but I remember being injured too, and just having conversations with Kobe and seeing how he played through injuries and how he like willed me to play. I needed ankle surgery and I needed shoulder surgery. And he's like, man, to Kobe, you can tell it was more than just a game. Like it was just like his pride, his everything was on the line. Anything he was gonna do it to his best ability. He was gonna study it. I mean, this guy's I don't even know what year he was in 2006, but he's in the back, he's studying other players, he's watching films. I'm like, dang. It just gave me a new look, because MJ wasn't doing that at 39. Just seeing a player like Kobe still doing that late in his career, it kind of gave me a sense of, okay, well shit, if he's gonna be doing all that, then I'm gonna be doing it too.
Like I'm sitting here and I hate to continue to say this.
He learned from the people around him. Watch who you surround yourself around. Because if you surround yourself around somebody who's just sitting around complacent, not trying to put no work in, whereas you got these visions, you want to be great, you want to go so far, you have these so grandeur dreams and things you want to accomplish, but all the people around you they just chilling, they doing nothing. And then what's gonna happen to you? You're gonna be chilling, doing nothing. So watch who you hang around. Just like Kwame was around Kobe, he seen Kobe put the work in, continuously work, and on top of that, he was their best player working the hardest. He was not just going out there off of talent. He wasn't just going out there off of talent. He was putting the work in every day. Every second of the day, each one of the things that he did was working towards becoming a better player. So that could only be contagious to the entire team, because you got that person at the top, then their work ethic and then start boiling down to the rest. So no wonder why he had 5 rings.
Keep going back to how much I am gaining listening to you, and how much I believe.
Thought he was crazy.
Yeah, and I get it.
That's what I
If you
wanted
don't
to
sit
do.
down in the room with you, you think like when he walked in, and I think a lot of people would see you walk around the corner and get scared.
That's what I wanted them to think.
Why would you want? When I was 21, I wanted people to fear me.
But look
I'm
at
40
what
years old. I don't need no fear.
Look at what it did once we sat down and have a conversation, though.
Yeah. But I think so. So why wouldn't I guess my point is.
I thought you was crazy.
No. I'll let you finish. Because there are better ways. You're a very smart man. There are better ways to get people's attention over fear and anger.
I don't
and
know
what
why
people
would
will-
you? Why
Like
would
I was
you
saying
think
think
about
before.
you. But bro, I'm not the only one. The world.
I feel there's
would
just a
feel
better
that
way
Not
to grasp potential
the kids, though.
than his
the
approach.
kids
Hey,
listen.
but no knock to what he was doing, but he's doing what he's doing.
Kids
Work
that
it
have
work.
never talked to you feel that way.
I guarantee you, when I walk in the room, the first thing kids say to me is, "Becky with the good hair." they love what I'm doing. I mean, it's just like, not all of it. I did start toning it back a little bit. If you looked at it, I don't really curse as much as I used to, because it's like you can't just browbeat them with it. But that first year and a half, I meant to do it exactly the way I did it.
So you being as strategic as you are, and now getting to the point where you can share in the way that you're sharing with us today, why would you go so long without speaking about these things, without telling people of the adversities you'd overcome, just to be who you are and where you were at the time. Because, you know, your reputation does precede you now, right? When you walk in, it's, oh, Becky with the good hair. But sitting here, you're so much more than that. And I get you being about the community and being about what those kids think, what those kids say, what those kids know. But when you talk about what the word bust has done for you from a deal standpoint, from a perception standpoint, from the way that people want to communicate with you and work with you and all those things, if the world knew what we know now, what people will learn now, or what those kids knew, it wouldn't matter what Stephen A. said. Like, you actually had the power
And I feel
to
like
change
that's where
some
he's
of
at
those
right
things,
now.
and you chose not to talk, or you said that people didn't want to hear
To
you.
where he's just not caring. Sometimes you just gotta not care. Best way to go about some things is to not care, bro. Some things you just can't change. Stop caring about it.
But I believe they did. You just didn't give us an opportunity to. Why would you wait so long to show this?
Well, it's two things got to be ready. I have to be ready too. So I think at that particular time I wasn't ready. I've been in court for 5 years fighting for my children. You're talking about a man who, you know, I had my kids in my household, and then I was called a deadbeat, which is supposedly the worst name in the world. And then, so now I tell men, don't worry about labels, don't worry about all that when you know who you are. So it kind of stripped me. And so now that I've been stripped, and I'm very humbled by everything that I've gone through. And so now I think now is the time to just show people you don't got to be a celebrity or a superstar for people to listen to you. They want to go bring out LeBron and all these superstars and bring them to the neighborhood as if that's going to change. What helped me was a small town guy who was at an FCA camp pouring into other children. So if that man could help get me to the #1 draft pick, it's going to take regular people in the community. It's not a celebrity giving out a turkey. And so what I realized throughout my journey, the things that I know is kind of scary. I almost went to jail trying to redo my park. You know, I brought some guys out. I'm like, we're just going to paint the park. We're going to put up some new nets. We're going to do it. They brought the police, surrounded the park like we was selling drugs. I'm like, what's going on? I had to learn. You got to go to the county commissioner. There's like chains that you have to go up just to help people. And when I started talking about building homes for single mothers at a reduced rate, I got so much pushback. And I think King Randall talked about it. Just from what I've tried to do on a small scale in my hometown that I know will actually help these kids, the amount of pushback I got from people that look like me is kind of scary. So it's my belief that there's a lot of money that black folks make by black dysfunction.
Have you ever seen or met a deadbeat at the courthouse fighting for his kids?
Yeah, that's what they say.
No, have you ever met?
I ain't never met one else fighting.
Oh, no.
I ain't never met one else fighting.
I get it.
Fighting for their children.
No.
Yeah, so I honor and I appreciate that. You know, but with that, I do want to ask you, like I ask all the guests, what to this point has been your biggest pivot in life?
My biggest pivot, like you said, just not caring. Like for a while when I was young, I really cared about making people understand that I'm not this bus and this and that. When I was maybe 25, 26, when I was still young enough to do something about it. I'm 40. I don't play basketball. I don't care. I just want people to see the difference in how the media spin these narratives and destroy these men's name. And now I'm at the point now that regardless of whatever you call me, that's not going to stop my commercial real estate from bringing in what it brings in and things of that nature.
In the words of Jamarcus.
As soon as you realize, like I was saying before, as soon as you realize that you cannot win everybody over, you just got to stop caring. And as you stay true to you, that's going to be the only thing that matters. And whoever follows in line with you, whoever you're able to reach, whoever you're able to touch with what you're speaking, what you're doing, whoever you're able to impact, influence, that's going to be the only thing that matters. And you just got to forget about all those people who are going to try to give you that pushback, who are going to bring you that negativity, who's always going to hate on you for some dumb reason. So just do you and allow those things to unfold and come back.
Because Russell, if you're going to call me a bus, make sure you put the biggest in front of that motherfucker. You know what I'm saying?
Well, speaking of bust, you said, like, the marketing deals I understand, because that word is negative.
Yeah.
You can't find bust mean positive anywhere. Well, I enjoy
Yeah,
that.
there you go.
Never mind, there's a
Or
one.
you can use bust that work for you.
Yeah, it worked for me pretty well. But to that point, like, did it hurt? Because you are the #1 pick. Everybody knew you rich. Did bust mess up the women? Was there anybody at the club talking about, oh, that he a bust? Or
They don't care
was
about
it
that. They just care
status
about
quo
them
for the
pockets.
first pick of the draft?
I think it was better. Being a bust is better.
How's that?
LeBron can't do what I can do. They take pictures everywhere he go. I was a bust. Ain't nobody take pictures of me everywhere.
He can move in the silence. He can move through the night. Ain't nobody people what he do. There ain't gonna be no paparazzi outside the club when Kwame Brown walk in the club. Kwame Brown gonna be able to walk in the club. They're just gonna see a tall dude, think he in the league, think he got money, and boom, he got a couple hugs. You got a couple hugs.
But
Easy
you
like
still
that.
big as hell. You
It
can't
don't matter.
sneak nowhere.
I can fit in a Corolla. I'm just gonna tell you. Hey, look, it was better being a bust. Trust me.
Yeah. You enjoyed every second of NBA, even through that rough time, through the time when you cared what people said, through the young Kwame growing up. The I don't want to keep calling it anger because you say you're not angry, but that
No,
dynamic-
it was anger.
It was anger.
Yeah.
So that anger didn't negatively affect your life as you moved up through, which should be, and I think to your point, which was a great time of life, which was living out a dream, but you always had this cloud over you that was that word bust.
Right. Well, Craig Hodges played an important role in that too. I got with Craig Hodges and he was showing me how to shoot free throws after I tore my shoulder up, and he was just like, he just walked up to me and got close. He said, "Look, I can see you wearing the pressure on your shoulders. Like you really care. I can tell." He was like, "I heard all kind of things about you." He said, he's just like, "Let me tell you something. You got all that money. Fuck them free throws. Don't care about making those free throws." He's like, just relax and just shoot it. And he would just come to me and talk to me about just let it go. And in real life, he would just say, just let it go. Anything that you're going through, just let it go. And people always say this cliche saying, let go and let God. But when you really sit back and think about what it really means, like I can't control whether somebody think I'm a bust or not. So now it doesn't affect me. I just go out and I just do what I'm supposed to do. And if you look at my life compared to most people, if you think that's a bust, that's on you.
Tell you, control what you can control, and let God control what you can't control. Just let
Loudest opinion
Just let it be, man.
of a man you don't care about should be the most silent thing we ever hear. Because that can't affect you. That can't change who you are. And from today, in not caring about opinions, you actually shouldn't care about the ones that are positive either. I want to tell you, man, you have 100% changed anything I've ever thought of you. And I'm not one of those people that thinks a person being a certain way is bad or a person being a certain way is wrong, because I don't get to make that decision. But I did think, okay, how do we sit Kwame Brown down and get to the bottom of who Kwame Brown is? How do we basically get through the BS that we see when people are attacking him? And it took zero work.
Yeah, who, why, what, when.
You sat down and you were you. And what's going forward for you, and this is where we're in, and what's going forward for you and the things that you've been able to accomplish since saying, you know what, I'm gonna speak my mind. I'm gonna be a part of affecting these communities. What goals have you set for the changes you're trying to make and who Kwame Brown is gonna be in the future?
I give my time more. The most important thing we got is time. And I pour into children in a way that I know they'll understand it. Most people, when I was poor and in that situation, I thank God I met Mr. Mosley, because everybody else tried to give us something. And after whatever they gave us ran out, we was back in the same situation looking for somebody else to give us something, especially when I was 13, 14.
Use your time wisely. Use your time wisely before he gets right back to that. And like Roddy Ricch has said in one of his intros, I'll never forget this. Now it's probably been twisted around, talked about a bunch of different ways, but time is the most expensive luxury, because once you use it, you never get it back, and you never know how much of it we have left. So use your time wisely. Start doing things with a purpose. Do things that have meaning to you. Do things that work towards where you want to get to. Stop wasting your time doing things you know you're gonna end up regretting in time.
It was a man named Mr. Moser. He came to me and said, I ain't giving you shit. He said it straight just like that. He said, no one cares that your brothers are in prison. No one cares about your mother. No one cares about anything. He said, what are you gonna do about it? And I was looking like, whoa. And so he gave me an option. You can either do this or you can do that. You can be like your brothers. And he gave me a job. And I went and worked every day. And so that's what I do to these young kids. I challenge them. Can't nobody fix your situation but you. You're not gonna work for me, are you? That's the only way that you're gonna fix my situation. You gotta literally do the work for me and come pay my bills. If you're not gonna do that for me, teach me how to do what you do. And so that's what I think most people should start doing for other kids.
Now, personally, I feel that one concept I always wanted to talk about, I'm gonna talk about it a little bit, but when I start streaming, that's why I'm gonna really elaborate on it, is that I would much rather have someone teach me how to do something than somebody just give it to me. Because if someone, say you want to get a pair of shoes, right? Someone just gave you that one pair of shoes that they got, gave it to you, boom, for free. Ain't cost nothing. But instead, I would rather, instead of that person give me the shoes entirely, I'd rather him show me how he got the shoes instead of just giving me the shoes. Because now that he showed me how he got the shoes, I can keep getting the shoes and whatever other shoes I want to get. Now, that's just an analogy for one thing. It could apply to a various number of things. So as you approach these certain things, don't always think about how asking for stuff, how to get it. And just ask somebody to give it to you. Learn how to get it. So now you can do it for yourself. You don't got to rely on other people to do the things that you want to do.
1, 2, I'll be honest. When you came out of your, I don't know, dungeon.
off that tractor.
Wherever you came off, when you jumped off that tractor and found this goddamn laptop.
It was like his first laptop too.
Yeah, it was like an iPhone 3.
And you went to, I say, speaking your truth. People would come back at you, but not too tough with it. And then once somebody says something tough and you respond, everybody kind of pull back. You got bodies buried, like.
Oh shit.
No, it's just like not.
We talk about that.
Yeah,
before
we talking about that. When
got
RC said, let's rap, I said, I gotta get this one in. But like, has people seen you whoop somebody's ass, or have you choked the shit out of somebody? Because people will go at you, and then when you say something back, then they kind of.
They keep it real basketball.
Oh, Kwame heard what I said.
That's only because those guys are not like that in the beginning.
I'm scared.
It's not that I'm just some tough guy. You can tell when a guy's faking. I mean, who wants to just run around fighting somebody?
It's easy to tell when somebody
I'm
flag.
40 years old. You, all of us are here 40. Y'all want to get in a fight with somebody?
No.
Only if I have to. And I learned how to do it well through getting my ass whooped. I got older brothers. It is what it is, you know. I can take a good punch. But that's not what I'm about. And that's what they tried to make a depiction of me. But if that was the case, I would have been in jail.
Do it for me, bro.
That's a wrap, man. Hell yeah. Appreciate you, boy.
I thought you was gonna get a little crazy.
Hey, he was too damn smart.
Yeah, you were too nice today.
You too small. I fuck with goofy motherfuckers.
Hold up. Limitless.
Hey man, that's the end of this reaction video, man. Kwame Brown, misunderstood for sure. A lot of things to learn for this, but make sure you subscribe, like, turn on the notifications. Live stream coming soon. All this stuff, hidden highlights, podcast, video reactions, YouTube ads, all that stuff coming live very soon. So make sure you subscribe on Twitch or follow on Twitch for now. Subscribe later on. And we out of here.